Hey, what's up you guys, my name is Harrison and welcome to School of Slime. So today we're going to be talking about quadratic equations. I'm starting a new video series, so this one will be like kind of slightly shorter than the other one. But let's just get right into it. So quadratic equations, what are quadratic equations, and I'm gonna go through a few methods of solving them, factorizing them, and I'll be talking about graphing quadratic equations. So first of all, quadratic equations, they are a type of polynomial. So basically there are many different types as quadratic, cubic, quartic, whatever, but the important thing is you just need to look at the highest power that it has. So the highest power means the thing that's right on top of, right after the x, the small little number that's pushed up a little bit. So quadratic equations, the highest power is a 2, in cubic the highest power is a 3, and in quartic the highest power is a 4. So you don't need this and you don't need this in order for it to be a quadratic equation. You just need to look at the highest power that x has. So let's talk about some other vocabulary, powers versus coefficients. We just talked about power just now. So this is x to the power of 2, so it's 2. X to the power of 1, if you don't see anything, it's a 1. And if there's no x at all, we call it a constant, or x to the power 0, but usually we just don't even write x to the power 0. Coefficients. Coefficients is the number that comes before x, or the number that comes before x squared or whatever. So it's usually not enough to say coefficient, you usually say coefficient of something. So if I say the coefficient of x squared, then it's 5, the coefficient of x is 7, and so on and so forth. So let's try a mini quiz. What is the highest power in this equation? The highest power is x to the power of 2. So our answer is going to be 2. What's the second highest power? 1. What is the coefficient of the x term? The x term, the number right in front of x is 7, and the number right in front of x squared is 5. Of course, all this vocabulary won't be like strictly tested in the exam, like what is the coefficient of this, but it's important to understand this so that you understand my explanation later on. Alright, so solving equations, again, this is something that's so-called like simple, but people don't really touch on it, but I figured let's just like explain it a little bit. So solving, if you don't understand, usually when they say solving by default, they mean like what will make the whole thing become 0. So the most simple example, if they say x equals to 1, and if they don't say anything after that, you just by default you finish the equation by saying is equal to 0, and therefore what would x be in this case? So the answer of course is x is 1. So solving quadratic equations requires usually 2 steps. Either you factorize the equation, if you can't, you complete the square. We'll talk about that later. And then after that, we will make x the subject. So yeah, it may sound simple because it's easy to do, or just don't worry about it. I'll be going through this in more detail. Okay, so factorizing quadratic equations. For the first way of factorizing is basically by trial and error. So when we are factorizing, we're thinking about factors that after you multiply them, we will get this equation. So for example, x squared minus x minus 6, what are the 2 factors that will produce this when you multiply this? So our answer is this and this. So what it means is that if you multiply this, you're going to get x squared minus x minus 6. But we're trying to work backwards and find out how we get to this. So here are the steps. First, you write down the x squared term and the constant. So I'm just going to do a little demo right at the side. So you draw this vertical and horizontal line here. And first thing you do is write down the x squared term and the constant. The x squared term is x squared. And the constant is negative 6. Alright? So write down, step 2, write down factors of the x squared term and constant. So what multiplied by what can produce x squared? So the most logical conclusion is x and x. You could put half x and 2x, but usually that's not the case. Usually it's just x and x. So for negative 6, we have like a couple of possibilities. It could be, minus 2 and positive 3. It could be minus 6 and positive 1. It could be positive 6 and negative 1, and all this sort of stuff. We don't know. So in this case, if we try negative 2 and positive 3, Okay, let's just try this first and go on to step 3. Check if it works out to the correct x term. So by checking, what you need to do is you multiply it. So it looks like this. I'm gonna change ink. Okay, so you multiply it, cross it like that. So when x multiplied by positive 3, you get positive 3x, and x multiplied by negative 2, you get negative 2x, and when you add them together, you will get positive x. So, and then we check if it's the correct x term. So we are slightly a bit off because we're trying to get negative x here, we're not trying to get positive x. So this is not a success. So step 4, repeat steps 2 and 3 for other factors until you find the right answer. So this is very, very much trial and error. The only thing I can say is practice. It does take a while for you to get the correct answer, but I'll just show you another time, and this time we will get the right answer for sure. Right, so hang on. Alright, let's repeat this again. X squared and negative 6 x. So why don't we try minus 3 and positive 2 this time? So if we multiply across, x multiplied by negative 3, we get negative 3x, x multiplied by positive 2, we get positive 2x. So when you add this up, you get negative x, which is the same as what we wanted in the first place. So we can write this down and say that the two factors are x plus 2 and equals to x minus 3. Sorry. And hence, we can solve the equation by letting each factor equals to 0. So, in other words, if x plus 2 equals to 0, we can say that x equals to negative 2. And if x minus 3 is equal to 0, we can get x equals to 3. So, yeah, this tip is mostly regarding finding the factor for this constant. So basically, just keep in mind that positive numbers can either be positive times positive or negative times negative. But negative numbers, you need to have one negative number multiplied by another positive number. So in this case, we see this is a negative number. So I made sure that when I was choosing factors, I chose one negative and one positive. So just try to understand this. Like I said, the only way to just get better at this is just a lot of practice. So I'll be going through a few more practices. So first of all, let's just go to the next slide. So we finished this. So now we're gonna tackle this. Okay. So try this on your own. Pause the video if you want to try this on your own. But otherwise, I'll just go ahead and set it up. So x squared will be x and x. Negative 4. Okay, look. So we could either try positive 4 and negative 1, or positive 1 and negative 4. So right now, just think about this. We're trying to get a positive 3x. Which one do you think will get us there? So x multiplied by negative 1 and x multiplied by positive 4. So obviously we're supposed to get 3x using with this. Alright, so yeah, I think just try to, by practicing, you can actually improve your mathematics sense. So obviously if you do this, you're gonna get negative 3x, which is not what we wanted. So our answer is actually x plus 4, x minus 1, and that's how we get our answer. And then by making x a subject, we have x plus 4 equals to 0, and then you put the 4 on the other side, you get x equals to negative 4. Or if you have x minus 1 equals to 0, you just shift it and you get x equals to 1. So that's your two answers. Okay, finally I'm just going to talk about some special cases. Cases where you see there's a 9 right there, or 7, where these numbers are just like one above or one below this number. If that is so, okay, if that is so, just use that. Okay, so 8 has many factors, has 8 and 1, has 2 and 4, or 4 and 2, that kind of thing, right? 1 times 8 and all that kind of stuff. But generally, if I see this number is like either 1 above or 1 below the constant term, I would just totally not even try the other factors. I would try itself and the number 1. So let's just see how this goes. This is just one way that you can, you know, shorten the time that it takes to try all these factors. But let's just give it a go. So we have x squared and we have positive 8. So we have x and x. So positive 8, and we're trying to get a negative number here. So remember that positive numbers can be either made by a positive number multiplied by a positive number, or a negative number multiplied by a negative number. But we want to get a negative number here, so we're obviously not going to do positive positive. We're going to do negative 8 and negative 1. So when we multiply it, you get this and this. So we get this. So our answer is x equal, I'm sorry. Alright. Answer is x minus 1. Our two factors is x minus 1 and x minus 8. And we're done. So the next two I will zoom through it pretty quickly. So just see. X squared minus 8. This time we're going to do minus 7. So x and x. So a negative number is one positive number, one negative number, right? So we can either do positive 8 and negative 1, or we can do negative 8 and positive 1. But we're trying to get a negative 7 there, so let's try a negative 8 and positive 1. So when we multiply this, we get positive x and minus 8x. So when we add this up, you get negative 7x. Okay, so finally we will try the last one. So, okay, sorry, it is lagging a little bit. X squared minus 8. X and x. So we're trying to get positive 7. So why don't we put 8 as the positive number and minus 1 as the negative number? So we get positive 8x and negative x, and it becomes positive 7x. Alright. So solving after factorizing. I think I went through this a little bit just now, but I just want to talk about why we are doing this. So first of all, we need to break it down into its factors. So for example, if we can break something down into factors like regular numbers, we can break down quadratic equations into two linear equations. Linear means there's only x, no powers, it's just x to the power 1. And that's what we have been doing just now for the past couple of slides. So finally, when we do that, when we want to solve the equation, we want to say that this thing, the quadratic equation equals to 0. We want these two linear equations equals to 0. So by making use of the fact that 0 times 0 equals to 0, or rather 0 times anything, if it's not infinity, equals to 0, so we can say we either need x times x plus 5 to equal to 0, or we need x plus 1 equals to 0. We don't need both of them to be equal to 0, we just need either one to be equal to 0, so we say or. So we can say, okay, we can say x plus 5 equals to 0, or x plus 1 equals to 0. So of course from there, you can't just leave it like that, you have to make x a subject. So we say our final answer is x equals to minus 5 x equals to minus 5 or x equals to minus 1. So that's how you do solving. So okay, so finally this first method of factorizing it can be a fast method of factorizing if you practice long enough and you start to see like how you can do it quickly. The not so good part of it is that it may not work for all equations. Not all equations can be factorized in this manner. Sometimes the factors have like square roots, like 1 plus square root 2, and it's difficult or even impossible to see it using this method. So we need more advanced methods to solve other quadratic equations, and that's what I'm going to be talking about in the next video, so stay tuned. So thank you guys for watching this video. If you found it helpful, please leave a like and a comment, and subscribe if you want to see more videos. And otherwise, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye.